look at it?
Want to move it back?
I think it's going to be shoes.
Going to Washington. That's right. Yeah, I think so. Begin by thanking the Parnes, first the Parnes HaChodesh is the Hershkovich Family, לעילוי נשמת Chaim Havi's mother, and also the Harrow Simcha Harrow, zchus of Klal Yisroel to see yeshuah, service types. Okay, so we're in Darkecha Tefillah Davening. We're up to page Reish Chaf. These 3 pages are going into a place of more in Kabbalah and Pnimius, where the Mechaber himself suggests that perhaps it would be recommended to come back to this later, not to do this right now. And I think that's a good idea. It's the nature of the diburim here is I'm not sure would be a to'elis for us right now, but so we'll continue on page Reish Chav Gimel. Reish Chav Gimel. Amnam. Afim Adam Zaychil Haven Mahi Tefillah. Even when a person understands, as we've been learning, what the tachlis of davening is, what's the pnimius of davening, to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this person davens in such a way where he's always looking for, through his davening, to strengthen the kesher with Hashem. Nevertheless, we all know that there are times, as much as we try, we don't necessarily try enough, but as much as we try, there are times that it's almost impossible to feel anything. There's a tremendous koshi, a difficulty, lekaving, to have kavana, lahargish, and to feel anything. The person feels that his heart is mamish shut, it's mamish closed. Now look at the footnote Shin Pei Aleph before we go on. Shin Pei Aleph. One of the things we've spoken about in his Avodah Chabur. When a person doesn't feel any cheshek at all to daven, doesn't have any cheshek to daven, but that's a good thing to daven for. He has something to daven for. To daven for this, Yivakesh, to ask Hashem, Hashem, I'm asking you to help me feel a connection to you. I'm asking for this connection. I don't feel anything. I don't feel like davening. Help me that I should open up my heart, that I should feel a cheshek. I should have some sort of, feel a connection, a desire to connect. And with this bakasha, with asking for this and davening for this, you're already making a connection by asking for this. You're making a connection. Kisarach Lizka Shakol Biyad Hashem's work. To remember that everything's in Hashem's hands. But nice not call. Even that cheshik that a person has, to be able to open up and to connect HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's also Biyad Hashem's work. Hashem is, we call it Sur Levavi. It says Hashem is the rock of my heart, and it's my own heart. In order for my own heart to be opened, I have to turn to Hashem. And if we ask Hashem, if a person asks Hashem for help, to ask Hashem for help with the kesher itself. Very often you'll have that between a husband and a wife, for instance, that many of the differences between a couple have to do with a lack of communication. There's something that's missing in that. And each one of them feels at that time a certain loneliness, or a sense of abandonment or something. And wants to be able to have a kesher. But it's not going. At least if they talk about that. The worst thing is when there's silence. The worst thing is just to go on and on and on without having a conversation, without discussing, without expressing that I want to have a kesher with you. That's the beginning of a kesher. To say to a person, I want to have a kesher. I don't. There's a problem. I don't know how. It's hard for me. Can you help me? You see such a thing even lahavdil between people. That itself is already a kesher, as opposed to silence or walking away from a relationship, not doing anything about a relationship. The fact that you say to the other person, I want to have a kesher with you. I don't know how. I don't know what the problem is. Can we talk? Can we go for help? That itself is a kesher, as opposed to just ignoring it and making believe that everything is fine, or not caring enough to even do anything about it. So it's the same thing with Hashem's Baruch. If a person doesn't feel anything, so there's this difficulty in connecting. So you could either walk away from that, as many people just walk away from that. And then it's just years and years and years of silence, or when I mean silence, doesn't mean that person doesn't go to shul or doesn't do it. Not a real kesher. This just doing things by rote and rituals and all that stuff, but not really having a kesher. But if a person says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, B'yad cha'av kidruchi, even my ruach, my ability to feel something is in your hands as well, and I just don't know what to do. But I'm coming to you to talk to you about it. That already is a kesher. That's a very significant thing. And any person who knows this in a relationship with friends, husband, wife, kids, that if there is at least that, if there's that willingness, that desire to talk about something, to have a conversation about something, that immediately that creates a kesher. Even though you haven't solved anything. Even though there's nothing that you've worked out and you haven't, but already the heart can open. And by wanting that and by expressing that, it's already the beginning of a kesher. So it's just a marshal of our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Yosef since the whole inyan of davening is this connection, is a chibur Hashem Yisroel. So if a person doesn't have a cheshik to daven, yesh kan ezen nituk ba'agoshes emunah. Not feeling anything by davening, or any need to daven, or cheshik to daven, that usually, our davening is of course affected by all the things that we're going through in life and so on. But on a deeper level, it means that there's some nituk b'argoshes ha'emunah. Davening is something which is inseparable from emunah. Ki mahaya murgash la'adam, because if the person is emunah, doesn't mean that you don't believe in God. The person believes in Hashem, but the madregas of emunah, if the person would be living with Hashem Yisbarach in a place of emunah, and would be conscious of this and living in a consciousness that right now in davening I'm speaking to the source of my life, to the Makar Chaim V'Hatoim. He wouldn't be missing a cheshek. Might be sometimes it's more intense, less intense, stronger, weaker, but altogether to feel that closed and empty, that wouldn't be like that. So with davening, all other areas of Yiddishkeit, all over the area, of course, everything in Yiddishkeit, everything that we do depends upon our emunah, but nothing as much as davening. Davening is a direct result of emunah. So if the emunah is empty and lifeless and very, very dim, so then that's going to show up. The first place it shows up, and the most obvious place that it shows up, is in davening. Why? Which is why davening generally, but generally davening is the hardest mitzvah. Even though it's done 3 times a day, and everybody's going to shul, but davening is, of all the mitzvahs, it's the hardest one. When it comes to learning, the person gets excited, the zchus of it, and so on. When it comes to other mitzvahs, but when it comes to davening, davening is fed directly by emunah. So the sign of one's emunah is tefillah. The strongest sign of emunah, of where a person's emunah is the tefillah. Therefore, a person has to daven for that. Tain li emunah. Rabbi shall help me with my emunah. Tain li emunah. Tezaka oisisha libi yargish emunah. Hashem, please be mezakim me, help me, that I should feel emunah in my heart. Sha'argish belev esma shani yodeh b'moach. That I should be able to feel in my heart that which my brain, my mind knows. I know that you're there. I know that you exist. I don't feel this, and this doesn't fill me. And I'm asking you to help me with that. Obviously, his bodadus is a very, very important time to concentrate on that. Yakol biyad Hashem Yisbarach. Because everything is biyad Hashem. Commission Chazal. Shekash Omar Hashem Yisbarach Yitein v'hoyu levavim zeh livra yisikal yomim. Hoyu li Yisrael levakish tein at. By Matan Torah, so there was a big excitement by Parnes HaShana. And it says in Pasuk that Hashem Yisbarach himself ki'ilu davened. No, the Gemara says that Hashem davens. And Hashem said, "Mi'tain." It's the lashon of a tefillah. That Hashem himself says, "Mi'tain" is like Yehi Ratzon. Now, mi'tain. If only you would fear me, Leroy Sikol, the way that you're trembling now, the way that you're on fire now, Sinai, the version was saying is, if only it would be like this in the future, if it would be like this all the time. So Hashem Kiviyachol is davening. So Chazal say that what we should have said upon hearing that was, "No, Teinata, help us." That's what we should have said. Teinata. So even that, we begin every Shemoneh Esrei with the words Hashem Svasai Tiftach Ufi Agitu Latsa. Hashem Svasai Tiftach. Hashem, open my lips. Hashem Svasai Tiftach. Mashom Chazal Shakol B'dei Shemayim Chutz Miyah Shemayim. What about the fact that Chazal say that Yiras Shamayim is a matter of Bechira? Hakol b'dei Shamayim, everything comes from Hashem except Hashem. That you have to work for yourself. Hakol b'dei Shamayim, chutz mi Yiras Shamayim. That's one of the first Chazals that we heard of when we were growing up. Everything comes from Hashem. Hakol b'dei Shamayim, chutz mi Yiras Shamayim. So the question was, what do you mean to ask for emunah? I'm davening for emunah. We see that Chazal told us that Hashem, that we should have said to Hashem, Teinato. So you're asking Hashem Kivyachol, you're asking us that we should have this year for you, we should have this feeling for you in the future, after Har Sinai. And we should have. So we're asking. We should have said Chazal. We should have said Teinato. We need your help to feel that. So what about Hakol b'dei Shamayim chutz mi Yiras Shamayim? What do you mean? How can you ask Hashem for Yiras Shamayim? What does it mean to ask Hashem for help with Yiras Shamayim? Ma'ashem Chazal Hakol b'dei Shamayim chutz mi Yiras Shamayim. Hakavan hi she'etzem ha'rotzen lizkos Yiras Shamayim hu b'chiras ha'adam. The meaning of that is, which explained the Maharal, many Svarim explain that the meaning of that is Hakol b'dei Shamayim chutz mi Yiras Shamayim, the desire to have a conversation. That's up to you. To care enough to say the words, Teinato, I'm lost, I don't know what to do. That's up to a person. You can go on your whole life not caring, God forbid, and not thinking about it. It doesn't make a difference to you. That's a matter of Hakol b'dei Shamayim chutz mi Yiras Shamayim. That you have to choose to be a person with enough Yiras Shamayim that cares enough to be able to say to Hashem, Teinato, help me, because I don't know what to do. It's not working. I'm not able to develop this feeling. It's not working. So a person has to care enough, and that's a matter of one's own bechira. She'etzem ha'rotzen lizkos Yiras Shamayim, the rotzen to have Yiras Shamayim. That's a person. That's up to a person. Hu b'chiras ha'adam. Aval kasher adam me'atzmo roitzem mevakesh. A person comes and he's asking. As Hashem is b'achnosei. Then Hashem will help him. You have to care enough to ask for that. In this area, there's a very big question. Harrow talks about this, and many of the Mefarshim talk about this. I'm not going into the whole Indian. But we see in different places in davening that when it comes to Yiras Shamayim, that one can daven for somebody else also to have siyata d'shmayim, and to be able to help. So sometimes there is such a thing that even when a person doesn't have even a rotzen to ask, that because there's somebody else that's davening, or it could be because of some ancestor long ago was davening that this great grandson who I don't know, that he should be able to do tshuva. These are things that are very powerful. So sometimes a person will have, even without his own rotzen, there'll be an awakening of rotzen that comes from someplace that can't be explained. So there are many deep sides in how Hashem tries to bring us back to Him, Kivyachol, and how Hashem makes it possible for us to come back. And Tefillah is the most powerful thing. But as far as our Avodah, the Bechira is in our hands. Even though there is such a thing that somebody else is davening for my Yiras Shamayim. How that works, we're not going into right now. But there is such a thing. But I have to think that this is up to me. I don't sit around waiting for something to come. My choice is to open up this conversation of to at least come to Hashem and say, I need a lot of help. Could you help me? And that already is opening up the communication for a kesher by speaking in such a way. Of course, to be marach in these diburim, to explain it, to talk about it, and so on. Back on top. The first thing is when a person doesn't feel any cheshik to daven, that in times like that, the ikr is l'sabes l'spal b'pashtus. To daven, even if normally you're a big davener, but if you're going through such a time, the ikr is to try to daven b'pashtus, to daven in a very simple way. And not to look at that davening as something which is b'de'eved of a falm, or it's like everything is now with ratings. How do you rate this? Is it 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5? We go into ratings. The ikr is to value the very fact that you're saying the words, that you came and you're saying the words. Even though normally you're a big davener, and now for whatever reason it's not going. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. I told you many times that they say that from the Kedushas Levi there was a certain tekufa. The Kedushas Levi, I don't remember the differences in Svarim, how long that tekufa was, but the B'ditch V'daven B'pashtus. Normally they didn't know what to do with him. He was all over. Like Rabbi Kiva, he was jumping from one end of his to the other, and he was rolling. They say he used to roll on the floor, and there was a time that he davened b'pshitas mamish, in the way of Pashat Yid, to say the words. And the best part of the story is, the way that is described in this farm, is that he didn't b'chlal have any nefilas haruach ha'atzvus, so he wasn't depressed, he wasn't sad. He wasn't going and crying, I can't believe I'm in this slump, what am I going to do, I'm in a slump. He didn't, there was b'chlal no atzvus, there was no, this is my avodah right now, is to say the words, and to be like everybody else, and to say the words, and to do what I can. That was it. So the main thing is lahar chesed, to appreciate and to value the importance of being able to say the words themselves. Which everybody knows that this is the main reason behind this the sad and very, very strange Indian of people talking all the time in shul. It's a strange thing. If you would ask anybody to stop and to just, could we talk about this? Even the biggest talkers or people. I was someplace last week and I was davening in Mincha, and my wife and I were taking a walk, and so my wife was upstairs because I said I want to go daven Mincha now. And so she came to the shul. She went there. There was the only one there. And my wife told me she's looking down in the shul. She said, it's a beautiful place. She's looking down in the shul, and she said, I don't want to say bad about Jews, but she said more than half the people, the whole time they daven, they finish, take 3 steps back after 2 minutes, and they're taking their phones out. They're doing stuff on their phones. And she said she wanted to come down and to start screaming. What's the matter with you? It's a bunch of What's the bunch of babies here? What is it? Because she doesn't know. She doesn't usually go to she's in shul on Shabbos, so no one's taking out their phone. She never saw. She couldn't believe it. She just was waiting for me, and she was davening it herself, whatever, upstairs. And she said, and I said, she said, did you see that? Because when I came out, I said, I'll meet you out front afterwards. So I came to tell them, isn't it a beautiful shul? Because it's a beautiful place. I said, it's such a beautiful shul. And she had this look on her face. And I said, what happened? What is it? I know that it wasn't crowded up there. She was the only one. She had such a look on her face. So she said, well, do you see what's going on? I said, what happened? I said, do you see it? She said, when such a thing, how could it be? These are fine people. They're good people. And if you ask anyone of them, put them on the side, okay, maybe a couple that are immature, but if you talk to a person in a real way, and he's a mature person, you say, what's the tachlis of going? Like, what are you doing? What does that mean? What is this whole Indian? If you dig a little bit, it doesn't take much. If it's a mature person, and you dig a little bit, it's because the feeling is that my davening is not much of a davening. And I did say the words, I ran through them, but what's the tachlis of that? My davening doesn't mean anything. Of course it has to do with the moon and all the other things we're talking about, but my davening doesn't mean anything. So the davening doesn't mean anything. They don't even value, there's no value to saying the words themselves, because the feeling is I'm not thinking about what I'm saying. I'm not thinking about Hashem. So I might as well just finish this up and get back to my emails and stuff, whatever I'm doing. But the person, the fact that the person went to Mincha, because he stepped out of his life with whatever he's doing, although it didn't look like people doing too much over there. Okay, well, let's say he has something to do, and he stepped out of his life to go and to daven, went to shul. So why would you come to shul to take care of emails? Why don't you just do that outside and just not daven or daven to yourself quickly for 30 seconds when no one's watching and get back to your emails? When you're coming to shul. But if the person would stop and think, wow, there's something inside of me that's pulling me to come to shul, and I want to be part of that, and I want to daven, and if he would cultivate that thought and that feeling and that rotzen, he would be able to have a much better davening. But the problem is that he doesn't think about that. He doesn't value the very rotzen that he has to be part of a minyan and to be part of Tefillah. He thinks that it's worthless because he's not thinking about davening. He does just daven. So he says the words, and what do the words mean? To stop say the words. But if you would think about what is it that I'm doing and why am I doing it, and to recognize it, that even a tefillah pshuta, even to daven in a way that's very poshut, that is significant, the fact that he came, and to try to build on that, to try to develop that. So he says ki ikar soid hatzlachahi, because the ikar soid, the secret of success, when it comes to all areas of Yiddishkeit, Avodah Hashem, but especially with davening, is not to be nispal, not to get all broken, not to get all broken and upset and so on, because of this feeling of distance. We'll get to the note in a second. But to know that Hashem is always there with you, even you ran in for a minute to like belt out some meaningless words you think are meaningless, they're not, but you think are meaningless. Hashem is there also with you in that situation. Therefore, do whatever you can during that time, whatever you're able to put together during that time. That's what you should do. Lo yishover mikach, and not to be broken by this. That you're not able to daven the way you would like to daven. Again, the example of what was happening, in that shul, and what happens in many places, and very often, we've seen things like this, and we experience these things. Is with a person. Many people have let go of any sheaf or rotzen at all, but they have to. If they would stop and think that I do have sheafas, I do have ritzanis, because there's something that's pulling me to shul. I do want to go to shul. So there's something that brings a person to shul. So you could say, the reason I come to shul is because I just want to see I want to see the chevra. I'm not coming to shul to daven. I'm coming to shul to see my friend. Haraya, I come late every time, and I leave early, and I go away in the middle. I go down like that. It's still not enough of an answer. There's still something inside of you that you haven't abandoned. There are other ways to make friends. You haven't abandoned this Indian of wanting to be in shul. But if you don't build on that, instead, what happens is there's such yeyush, there's such despair, there's such a giving up of any Indian of davening. Even the same person might learn the daf yomi, and the same person might do all kinds of wonderful mitzvahs and help people. He's a great person. When it comes to davening, and lo matzliach, there's something which is not with hatzlacha, and the person is very sad about that. I don't believe that any of these people are happy. That all they want to do is to play with the phone in shul. One thing is that there's an addiction. That's playing just not an addiction. It's a serious addiction that people have. But aside from that, they don't want to play with the phone on davening. They understand that it's not something that Hashem likes. You don't have to look into the Mishnah Berurah for that. Why would Hashem want you to do such a thing? It doesn't make any sense at all. It's a yeshuah. It's a brachenkeit that a person has, especially from the time that he's a little kid. He sees that davening is not something that goes, but he has to go. He has to go to shul. He feels that he's part of that thing, and he has to go. So that's how it works. Let's just do this note. Shin pei beis. V'yesha noiflim ma'avedis hatfila. And of course, another major reason, we've discussed this a lot, is that the reason for people that dropping davening, just not really having a feeling for davening, because they look at themselves as sinners, as Rishonim. If not Rishonim, they're just whatever, far from perfect. Davening is something that they imagine is for people who are very close to Hashem. I'm not someone who's close to Hashem. I do all kinds of bad things. So the feeling is that Hashem is not here with me. Hashem is not here with me. You heard 1,000 shmuzim growing up, how Hashem is disgusted with him and turns away from him, and all kinds of choice, nice talks about how God turns away from sinners, and he feels that Hashem is not with him. Hashem's not there. Of course, this is all from the Yitzhar, to confuse a person, to think that because he's done all kinds of stuff, that therefore his davening is not accepted. How could I come and speak to the king after I've done such terrible things? It's a mistake. It doesn't go into all the places in the Svarm, a million places where we're taught that regardless of what you've done and who you are, that Hashem's Baruch never goes away from you. See a shol, even if you're in Gehenna, Hashem is there with you. That's a mistake. To believe in Shlema, that your davening is a big thing, and Hashem is there with you and listening. The same way that Hashem is with us through all the generations, in all times. Even if a person has done averos, obviously a person certainly has to try to do tshuva. It makes no difference if you could put together an impressive collection of chazals or psukim that seem to indicate otherwise. We've got to go in a way that's partial from the tzaddikim who have revealed to us the previous of our relationship with Hashem, that it's not broken by our averos. Certainly we have to do tshuva. Even when a person feels darkness, even though you feel like Hashem is not with you, you have to mischazik to know that that's how you're being tested right now. That's the nisayin that you're going through right now. Even by Avram Avinu, it says, the nature of that time when you're being tested is to feel that distance. It says, and the Svarim say that Hamakom doesn't just mean the place of the mountain, but Hamakom is another way of speaking of Hashem, is Hamakom. There's a feeling of even by a great tzaddik, there could be feelings of distance. This is the test. Are you going to be able to believe that that even though you feel chayshach, you see that Avram Avinu, when he went to that cave, says, "After Shulachem Pamor, Bani Benar and El Chadkos." Yishmael, he said, "Amadar Melecham." So Yishmael, he said, "You stay behind." So the Chazal tell us, it says in the Tanchuma, the Chazal say that there was a dark cloud that was over the mountain, a dark cloud, and Yishmael, he was looking at the dark cloud, and he didn't want to go. But Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, they saw that there's a beautiful mountain that's beyond the cloud, beneath the cloud, beyond the cloud. They saw something else. The nature of one person is always to just get stuck by the cloud, and not to be able to move forward. You see something, you see that darkness, and you just get stuck, and you can't move. So Avinu says, "This is not for you. This is not for people who can only see darkness." But there are others who see that there's a cloud. There's a cloud, but there's something that's after the cloud. There is a darkness right now in the world that we're going through right now, and you have people that they get completely caught up with the darkness, which is a lot of what they're on the phone about, probably looking up to what CNN has to say about whether or not Jews are good or not good, and the person gets completely paralyzed by the darkness. And there are others like Avram Avinu and Yitzchak Avinu that and Moshe Weinberger went into the Anan. That's where we got the Torah, and Avram Avinu went, and that's the Beis Hamikdash. To go into that place and to know that. So that's the Nisa. That's always Nisa. There are people that the second they see a cloud, they turn away. They turn away. Is chazak lemishes hanisa anaksha. Person has to be mischazik to know that this is the test. This is just like Ravina vayas amakim erohak, and there was a non-koved alahar. It doesn't say that by Hasina, but by the Chazal tells us that by Ravina there was a darkness over there. And you can't even imagine the darkness that he was feeling in his heart, that he was supposed to go kill his son. That was the Nisai. Are you going to be able to continue on despite the fact that there's a dark cloud? Are you going to be able to continue on? It says in the parasha, we don't understand the kesha that Avram had with Sayyimenu. We can't understand the kesha, the depth of that kesha. But it says, and he came back from the cave, and she was dead. And it says, Vayokam Avram me'al mesa. It doesn't mean that he didn't love Sayyimenu, but Vayokam Avram is the way of a yid to be mischasik. Vayokam Avram me'al mesa. Vayokam Avram me'al mesa. Got up. He got up. Vayokam Avram me'al mesa. So you might have some person, some type of a person who would be watching that and say, well, probably he didn't love his wife as much as I love my wife because I can't get up. My wife is gone, and that's it. I'm finished. I can't continue living. So it must be that I love my wife more than Avram Avinu loves Sayyimenu. That would be wrong. The difference is that Avram Avinu is Vayokam Avram. He had something to take care of. He had to take care to make a kinyan, but the rest of Machpelah had the things that he needed to do. So he went from sitting shiva, he went from this whole parasha of Sayyimenu and Hesped and everything. He went to talk to Bnei Ches, to these people, to handle with Ephraim, to handle over some real estate. And somebody would look at that and say, "What kind of heartless person is he?" No, he was a great person, and great people know how to get up. Great people know how to get up, and if you think that he felt less losing sorrow that you felt, you're making a big mistake. Because the heart of Avram Avinu is 1,000,000,000 times bigger than your heart. His whole Metzias was ahava, was chesed. No, you don't understand how much he loved his wife. But if he really loved her, then he'd be floored. He'd be out of commission. Vayokam Avram. To me, it's one of the most inspiring psukim in the whole Tanakh. And I tried to picture that. Avram Avinu, Vayokam Avram. It's called Vayokam Avram. To think of that. When you don't feel like going on because you see some darkness, you see a cloud. Vayokam Avram. To get up. That's why there is an Inyan at the end of Shiva, at the end of Shiva, when after Davening on the seventh day, to scream at the person who's sitting, stand up. What are you sitting there? Because the person doesn't feel like getting up anymore. Because everything's verfallen, so he sits there, so you yell, stand up, get up. Vayakum. Vayakum Avram. The Jew has to mischazik, to stand up. Shav shemarkish choshech b'avada, Hashem zvarach ito, ki ein efshosh Hashem zvarach lo ito, Hashem is with you. There's no such thing that Hashem is not with you. K'mish Hashem zvarach gilui lanu v'shmai, the same that Hashem revealed, that is, when Moshe Weinberger asked, who are you, what's your name? What should I tell them? Hashem said, Eki Asher Eki, I will be who I will be. Shemar Mishu is Shehu Yisbarach Yeh Kol Yisrael, which Rashi brings down over there. That Hashem said to Moshe Weinberger, I was with you the whole time in this Galus, even though you didn't know that I was with you the whole time in Galus. And I got news for you. There are going to be other Galus that are coming. There are going to be other exiles. I'm going to be with you then too. Shemar Mishu Yisbarach Kol Yisrael B'chol Adas. And Bnei Yisrael in Mitzrayim on the 49th level of Tumah. Hashem says, I was with you then, and I'm going to be with you always. Whatever your matzav is, I'm with you. The same Rebbe who said that to Moshe Rabbeinu is the same one who's here now. The same Rebbe by Yitzhak now. It's the same Rebbe. And Hashem said, I will be with you always. I will always be with you. No matter what. No matter where you're holding, I will always be with you. Yes, David, you wanted to say something? Yes, something.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why, I don't know, me, everybody, whatever, I can't speak for everybody, you go on the phone, maybe we don't appreciate the importance of Parnes HaShana. Maybe we don't appreciate the importance of the Beis Knesset.
There are many reasons, as I said. There are a lot of reasons besides many things that contribute to the problem of Tefillah B'tzibur.
So just standing on one leg, how important is Parnes HaShana?
That's not the in you right now.
It would help though.
Because David said something. I would say something. And he talked about Avram Avinu, and Mamash had a strong picture of your father in that Indian. Get up.
Well, that's my face of Avram Avinu that I think it was my father. The Jews that I saw that I grew up with, my father, my uncles, and that chevra of the friends. I was yelling at somebody on the phone this week, a wonderful, wonderful young man who was going through a certain Indian in the family, which is serious. I'm involved with him with this Indian. And he used a lashon. He sent a text, and the text was that it's very hard for you. I'm very angry with Hashem. So I called him up and I said, I never ever saw that my father would talk such a way that he was angry with Hashem. For my mother, I never heard such lashons from these people that I saw that were in Auschwitz in the madhouse, and I never saw such a thing. Such a dibur to say to be angry at Hakadosh Baruch Hu, to be angry at Hashem. The whole mitzias of that generation was a mitzias of vayakum, because that was the test that they went through. After all that they had been through, are they going to be able to get up? Because there were many of them that didn't. That they stayed, they didn't come back to Yiddishkeit, or they, even emotionally, they couldn't, they were ruined, and nobody has any kindness. That's understandable. But the Gevuras HaNefesh, the zchus, and all of that vayakum that I saw growing up, they didn't go to Shiurim. They didn't. It's like everybody now. If somebody had a day where somebody insulted them, then I need some chizuk. My friend said, "You're a loser. I'm a loser. Could I meet with you? I need some chizuk." It's unbelievable what's going on these days. And I'm not saying I have to make fun of people, but the vayakum, this quality of standing up and they where did they get their chizuk from? Well, you think they had chizuk hotline? What do you think they went? They had shiurim, or they were listening to shmuzim or something? What kind of shmuz was there in 1945? After everybody was killed, What was the shmooze? Where did they go for a shmooze? Who gave a shmooze? Where? What sefer? They didn't have any svarim. They didn't have anything. There was a koich of vayokim that a person has that they took from Avram Avinu, such an Indian, to be able to get a vayokim Avram al pnei mesa. And a person should think of those words not only if it's, God forbid, someone that dies. But it's something else that happened to you during the day. Vayokim Avram al pnei mesa. Stand up. Stand up. That's the nisayon that a person is going through whenever there's a cloud, whenever there's darkness. But that vayokim Avram al pnei mesa. As far as the sugi of chazos hashatz, that's a separate conversation. So of course, chazos hashatz is on a higher level than the Kwach Shmoneh. And of course, people don't appreciate it. And in general, people don't appreciate God. Just in general. As far as what Chazar Shashatz means, the repetition of Shmoneh Esrei, according to Arizal, is on a higher madrega than. It's on a higher madrega than the Kwach Shmoneh. But it's not just a matter of Chazar Shashatz. Kedusha's basic knesses. That's all part of it. But the Iker Inyan is what we're talking about. Emunah, a feeling of I'm not such a good person. V'chuli v'chuli. But there are many, many other things that are involved. Of course, there are many things that are involved. Let's just see if we could. One second, where are we up to here? Hold on. Up top. Yeah, just one more paragraph. On page Veishchav Dal, the second paragraph. Oh, the first paragraph on top. Because when there's darkness, don't have such big expectations. It's okay. It doesn't have to be such a big davening now. But make sure you don't throw in the towel. Try as hard as you can. That's all. Hashem doesn't ask anything more from you. Just try what you can. To be strong. The spal to push yourself into that kedusha. Even though it's very hard for you, there's all kinds of confusion. Then you should know. You should know that what you're doing by doing that, by pushing yourself and doing the best you can, that's the ikar kavod that Hashem has. It's a gewaldige nachas that Hashem has. Tremendous nachas. When a Jew doesn't give up and walk away when he sees a cloud, Hashem is very proud of him. It's a big thing. When you feel that the yeshuah is trying to steal your davening, to take it away from you, you push and you try hard. To say another word, not to head for your phone, but to say to keep your head in the siddur and say another word. To say another word, the kavod Hashem is basketball. The kavod Hashem. Even though it's so hard for you to have kavanah, you should know that at that moment, at that time, your avodah right at that time is for you to have to fight with your Yetzirah. Because Yetzirah is telling you that your davening is worthless. Hashem doesn't care about your davening. And you know what nachas Hashem has when you fight with that? You have to be mechazik yourself that Hashem is here with you. Mamish with you, here with you. Hashem is watching you fight. Hashem is watching you conduct this battle against like Yitzhar that's telling you just head for the phone, drop this whole davening thing, or talk. Hashem is looking at you that you're in this milchama, that you're trying to say another word. You're trying not to get caught up in that, in the talking or the stam or something else. Hashem is happy with every little hatzlacha. Hashem is because Hashem is machshev. To him, Hashem, it's very important, every effort that a person makes. If a person understands this, that if a person knows this, then even though he's going through a hard time and it's not going so well, he doesn't become weakened, he doesn't lose himself. Elias Ames v'Yis Gabi Yosef Yosef Kfi Koicha. He strengthens himself. Yosef Yosef Kfi Koicha, stronger. The Yarech Kol Ma'at, and like Rabbi Nachman said, a bissel is also good. A little bit is also good, and he's marach that, and he values that. Because that's, you're doing exactly what Hashem wanted you to do at that moment in your life. At that moment in your life, He did not want you to have some kind of a big fancy davening. All Hashem wanted from that moment in your life is not to talk, not to go to the phone, to stay in the words, and to fight against that thought that this is ridiculous, and to stay in it, to be in it. That's all that Hashem wanted from you at that moment. That's all He expected you from that moment, and you did it. Ashwachem. So, and you could be happy, just like the B'ditcher was happy at that time. He was the B'ditcher. He stayed the B'ditcher. He didn't go off the derech. He didn't go off the derech. The B'ditcher stayed. That's interesting. He stayed on the derech. So, Vayakim.
Really helped you make the connection.